Great. Well, hey, y'all. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today for the Staking on Stacks L2, a new era for Bitcoin webinar. My name is Drake Breeding. I am Protocol Opportunities Lead here at Figment. Figment's a leading provider of digital asset infrastructure. Specifically, we run staking infrastructure and validators on about 40 different blockchain networks. If you have any questions throughout the course of the webinar, feel free to ask the chat or in the Q&A. Want to get to as many questions from folks as we can, so we'll be answering some throughout the course of the conversation, and then we'll have some dedicated time at the end as well for anything that's a little longer. I'm joined today by three panelists, and I will pass the mic over to each of them for an intro. Muneeb, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, happy to. I'm Muneeb. I'm the co-founder of Stacks, which is a Bitcoin L2. And these days I focus on Trust Machines, which is a company that is building Bitcoin applications. And we obviously use Stacks and also Bitcoin L1 for building some of these applications.
Awesome. Muneeb did not say Bitcoin OG in his description, but he certainly is. Kyle, how about you? What's your background, sir?
Hi, everybody. I'm Kyle Ellicott. I lead investor relations throughout the Stacks ecosystem, and also I'm an advising partner to Bitcoin Frontier Fund, which originated as the ecosystem fund for companies building on Stacks, and today focuses on not just the Stacks blockchain, but also companies building on Bitcoin in general.
Awesome. And finally, Andy Cronk.
Yeah, thanks, Drake. So my name's Andy. I'm one of the co-founders of Figment. We have a long-running joke. We've been always focused on one thing, which is staking. And so whenever we talk about our company, we say, we do everything except Bitcoin. Well, I don't get to say that anymore. The world's changing. And so I'm excited to talk more about that today.
Awesome. Great point. Well, thank you guys all for joining. And yeah, let's jump right in. Muneeb, we'll keep this one super brief. Instead of giving us the whole overview of Stacks, I think everybody here probably has at least a little bit of familiarity with it. Three questions for you. What is Stacks? What is stacking? And why should I care about it now?
So I think the simplest way to think of Stacks is it's a Bitcoin L2. And the goal of the Stacks project is to sort of like build the best Bitcoin L2 out there. You should be able to move your BTC from L1 into the L2. And over there, it's programmable, it's cheaper, it's faster. And that's how we think Bitcoin is going to scale. Like this is how Bitcoin goes to like 1 billion people. Like in terms of stacking, so STX is the asset at the L2 layer that people use to secure the L2 network, right? So if you want to play a role in it, if you want to be a validator, a signer, you take STX, especially after this major upgrade that is happening on the network, and you lock it. So now you're sort of like performing work for the network. And as a reward for that, as almost like payment for that work, you earn BTC, which is a very, very unique thing. I don't think there's any other asset in the crypto industry where by holding or locking it and doing work for the network, you can actually earn BTC. And this BTC is on the L1. So people are very pleasantly surprised when Bitcoin shows up in their L1 wallet. And that's stacking. People who are familiar with staking, like it's sort of similar, but different, right? Like you're earning BTC and the work that you're doing is also slightly different.
Awesome. That's great. And yeah, I think anytime extra crypto shows up in your wallet, particularly Bitcoin, it's pretty exciting. Andy, I'm going to hand it over to you for a second. You know, founder of a staking company where we all hear about proof of stake, staking on Ethereum, staking on Solana. What are some of your kind of initial questions for Stacks and its unique sort of mechanism for staking?
Yeah. And if I could try to channel what I've learned doing this for the past 6 years, is when there's a new opportunity for staking, the people who hold the token, we see them as customers, you probably view them as token holders, your community. They have two questions. It's, should I stake this? Like, what's the opportunity? What's the risk in staking? How does it work is really what they're asking. And then the second question, which I like to answer is, why should they choose Figment? I'm not going to do that commercial today. But really, I think it'd be really useful to hear from you, Kyle, or Muneeb, just at the high level. Who are the players in this game? Because it sounds like there's miners, there's signers. It's different. and it sounds like this importantly different because you can earn BTC. And so, can you kind of go one level deeper if you want to talk about proof of transfer, or just start with the players? Who's involved here, and who does what?
Yeah, I can take a shot, and Kyle, feel free to add anything here. So I would say that this network is different from your typical proof of stake network, and maybe first it's important to like try and understand why, right? So if you're building a separate network from Bitcoin, like Ethereum or Solana, it's a disconnected, independent ecosystem, right? So you have a new native asset, and you're basically staking it and being a validator to kind of like, run that network. With Stacks, being a Bitcoin L2, our sort of like goals are different, right? Like we want to build something on top of Bitcoin. We want to reuse Bitcoin security and sort of like secure the L2 by Bitcoin, right? Instead of building something like independent. So that's where proof of transfer comes in. Like it's a little bit like, Bitcoin is like digital energy. Can we reuse this energy to secure an L2? Right. So that's the work that the miners are doing. So miners operate at the L1 level, and they are sort of, proposing the new blocks. There, in some ways, if people are familiar with sequencers for L2s on Ethereum, miners are more similar to sequencers, especially after the next upgrade on the network. So they sequence the blocks. They're the ones who are bidding in BTC. So they're actually, they're the ones sending these BTC rewards that show up in your wallets if you're actively stacking. And they're performing work for the network, and they have their own incentives to sort of like do it. And then at the L2 layer, one work that you are doing is similar to Ethereum and Solana, which is validating the blocks, right? So the sequencers propose a block, you validate it, you sort of like sign off on it that this block is correct. But there's also another additional work that you're doing, which is also important, which is, again, for Solana and Ethereum, they're independent systems, they have their own crypto assets. Over here, our entire purpose is to make BTC programmable. So there's movement of BTC from the L1 into the L2, which is completely, decentralized, because the L2 understands that there is an L1, right? So your Bitcoin can easily move to the L2. But when you are moving it back from the L2 to the L1, Bitcoin is old technology, and it doesn't know that there is an L2 running on top of it, right? So these validators also do the job of kind of like processing the withdrawals, and making sure that you can get your Bitcoin out of the L2 back into the L.
That makes sense. And so miners and signers are those sort of the two top level roles. Do you imagine that there will be there's people who are Bitcoin miners today? Do you imagine they'll be the ones who are participating as a miner? Is it an opportunity for me if I have Bitcoin in my wallet? Can I be a miner? What kind of a person or entity do you see playing that mining role?
Kyle, you want to answer that?
Yeah, so I think Muneeb added a few of those characteristics already into the list, but in addition, anybody. We've got in the current version of the network right now, we do have stacking cycles that run just over 2 weeks at a time, that any Stacks holder, any STX holder can actually participate in the stacking process as well. So they can help, they can support the network, can contribute, whether they're a miner, whether they're an individual, whether they're an investor, it doesn't matter. They can participate as long as they're holding STX, the native Stacks token as well, which is pretty exciting for, again, the reasons Muneeb already mentioned, because as you stack, you support the network, but you also then yield back BTC or Bitcoin back into your wallet. And also, as things have recently progressed here at the beginning of the year, you can stack to participate in the ecosystem and some of the applications that live on the ecosystem, thanks to liquid stacking, and something new that we've just had introduced into the ecosystem as well. And so, yeah, you've got everyone from miners to individuals to investors, whether it's VCs, private equity, or the like, that are all contributing along with the everyday average person as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
Cool.
in terms of sort of like the Bitcoin miners, so I've personally seen some interest, like people who are running Bitcoin mining networks, they get sort of like naturally interested that if there's an L2 that's getting a lot of traction, They already run mining infrastructure. They're like, hey, how can we mine sort of the L2 as well? And then they are sort of like, pleasantly surprised that it actually doesn't cost any more hardware. There aren't like heavy hardware requirements like ASIC mining that you have to do on the Bitcoin L1. So in some ways, it's very lightweight. Like anyone that has access to Bitcoin really and can run a node can be a miner.
Okay, so is the right way to think about this? Because I'm hearing two different games to play, two different opportunities for people. For some people, if they have Bitcoin, they can do this auction process and earn STX on the other side. And then if you have STX, you can stack it and earn Bitcoin. Is this kind of the two different flows that are available?
Yeah, I think that's correct. And
Yeah.
I would say the profile for these two participants is a little bit different, right? So the type of people who are into mining, they're typically optimizing the mining process. So it's all about your profitability, right? Like, can you have a better mining strategy than the other players, right? So these people are, I would say, typically much more sophisticated. They might have, a background in game theory or like optimizing sort of like, DeFi opportunities and so on. Whereas I think the type of individual that participates in on the network on the stacking side might be more broad, right? Like these are your token holders who are interested in earning a yield. And I think this is where companies like Figment come in, where maybe you don't have the technical expertise of running a node, making sure it's reliable and so on, but you do want to participate. You're a believer in the project, you're a token holder. And I think then you can delegate out that task of running the nodes to companies like Figment. And I think that's and some people might be technical enough to do it themselves, right? But it's not for everybody for sure.